if you're just rehashing something that has been done before, there's no point in doing it, right? So for the first time, they're actually thinking about what they're doing. They're not being impulsive. They're thinking, should I do this? Should I go for it?
கதை வந்து எழுதி புக் தான் பப்ளிஷ் பண்ணாங்க. சினிமா வந்து ஒரு ப்ரொடியூசர் காசு போட்டு பண்றப்போ இப்படி தான் பண்ணணும்.
And I think it takes a lot of years to get better at it. I think it's one of the most important parts of screenwriting. So my second film, Iravaakalam, took a lot of time to make. I was pretty depressed.
Thank you for coming back. We asked the special invitee what films they would play, and then we checked a couple of other suggestions. I think 2 or 3 of the suggestions he made we have already seen in the film club during our monthly dates. So my first question to Ashwin is why this film, and not just why this film for Cinema Rendezvous, why was this film important for you? There were a number of people who came outside and said something about the ending, which we also discussed. So, about expectations of films and how this impacted you.
Hello everyone. This was one of those films where I walked into the theater and I literally had no idea about what the film was about, and I hadn't watched any of the trailers or hadn't read about the film. So I just walked in with a very empty mind, and I just wanted to. I think I've seen one of his earlier films, in Bruges. That's the only film I've seen, and I want to see this. And the film, the first time I saw it, I was very angry and I felt a lot of strong emotions. And the film kind of shocked me at several places, and it took me a long time to make peace with the film. It was very provocative in a lot of ways. And I feel that that's the best part of the film. It raises a lot of important questions on, the nature of vengeance and forgiveness, and about closure, and a lot of other things, that racism and a lot of other things that we conveniently discuss in a very polished way. But this film deals with it in a much more sensitive and much more aggressive way that I feel like is more real and more relatable. And the best part of the film is that your connection with the characters kind of evolves over the course of the film. You like somebody and then you don't like somebody. You don't like somebody and then you like somebody. Like it's constantly tested, your connection with the characters, and the likability of the characters massively changes over the course of the film. That was something that I really enjoyed. And also another thing that I really liked about the film is its nature of being character driven. Because generally in a crime drama you have a plot, you have plot points, and you have a lot of beats, traditional beats. But in this film there was a lot of character moments that were very, very striking, and the entire story was driven by the decisions and the choices the character makes more than the plot. So that was very refreshing for me, and every single character kind of stands out, and you observe it, and you kind of spend time with them, and you feel with them and all that. And that was very refreshing, because you don't get to see proper character development in a film. You see that in web series and all those things, because you'll have more screen time to develop those characters. But in this film, surprisingly, even with a plot like this, they managed to develop a lot of characters convincingly, and they also managed to surprise you in a lot of places, which I think is incredible.
So, when we watch a film and we come out, there is a certain way we normally speak. That comes from a space of the kind of films we watched over the years, with the kind of films we got exposed to in Tamil cinema or Hindi cinema or mainstream cinema. Why I even asked him to just post the film, just structure it like this and just share his thoughts is, there are several ways people look at it, and he's not talking something like technically alone. So there are, idu madri nammalum paatha, I think it will be very different. The other main question, again coming back to how I see my friends in the film club react to films. எந்த விதத்துல வந்து நம்ம தமிழ் சினிமான்னு நினைக்கிறப்போ இப்படிதான் இருக்கும்னு சில ஸ்ட்ரக்சர், நம்ம இந்தியன் சினிமா மெயின்ஸ்ட்ரீம் சினிமாங்கிறப்போ ஒரு ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் இருக்கு. சிலப்போ அந்த ஸ்ட்ரக்சரை ஃபாலோ பண்ணாதப்பவும் இட் இஸ் ஸ்டில் இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங். அந்த விஷயங்களை பத்தி பேச முடியுமா? ஏன்னா நீங்க மாயா எடுத்தப்போ, இப்போ இந்த படத்தை ஒர்க் பண்றப்போ, கான்ஸ்டன்டா உங்ககிட்ட பேசுறப்போ you are admiring a lot of, almost all filmmakers get inspired and then you do some tweaks, but you're constantly pushing the limits also with this narrative, the storytelling. அது டைரக்டரா வந்து நீங்க இந்த மாதிரி சினிமாக்களும் நீங்க எடுக்கிறப்போ அது மாதிரி பத்தி பேச முடியுமா?
I mean, let's talk about the ending in detail later. Like, I'll talk about my process. See, if I'm making a film in say a horror genre, I'll watch a lot of films in that genre and I'll understand why it works and why it doesn't work, and I'll watch all the bad films, I'll watch all the good films, and I'll watch the best films, and I'll kind of understand, how it works and how each and everything is put together. And once you understand that, you kind of also realize that you need to add something new to the table to actually make a horror film. If you're just rehashing something that has been done before, there's no point in doing it, right? So as much as you know about the genre, you really feel like, okay, I have an idea that might be new to the table, that might add something to the genre that hasn't been done before. If that doesn't excite me as a new idea, I don't do that, I don't take it up. So the minute you say, let me add something to this and make it my own, you kind of make narrative decisions that can be sometimes surprising and sometimes in a pleasant way or in a bad way. But anyway, you stick with it and you tell it because you believe that this is something that hasn't been addressed before, or you have done something that hasn't been seen before, right? So that kind of keeps you motivated and that kind of pushes you in the right direction, I feel. With Maya, there was a lot of horror films being made, but there wasn't a film which had this meta idea of a story within a story that was never addressed. And even though I wouldn't call Maya technically a out and out horror film, it still had horror elements, and it had a lot of narrative. It had a unique narrative structure, I would feel, for a horror film, for a supernatural film. So that was something that I wanted to bring to the table, and that was the reason why I wanted to write that film in the first place.
So இன்னைக்கு கதைகள் கதையை தவிர்த்து அது சொல்லப்படுற விதம் இன்னைக்கு ஆடியன்ஸ் டேஸ்ட் மாறி இருக்கா with exposure?
Definitely.
So you're talking about story within a story. I'm sure it's explored, but we are more aware of it and we look for such storytelling.
See, generally it's always been there. Like when we read literature, there's a lot of experiments being made in literature, and we read a lot of books like we used to read, not anymore. But now I think the Netflix and all the streaming services have taken over, and we consume content and we consume stories in a completely different way. And we are open to different kinds of genres, and we kind of, we consume all kinds of content basically. So our idea of how a film should be has been shook up. Everybody is not expecting a traditional film when they go to the theater. They want a new experience because either they can sit back at home and watch something in Netflix which is much, much better than what they see on screen. So they have become a bit picky because they really need to see something new. Otherwise, there's no point in coming to the theater and paying a lot of money. So I feel that has changed over the years. Their film viewing experience has completely changed, and also their expectations from a certain actor or a certain genre has been changed. So I think that is dictating how filmmakers approach the writing process as well.
So character-driven arc, you made a point. And there were these long pauses in the film which were pretty eloquent. The music for me was very interestingly used. So how would you say, and this is a film I remember where Madras it did very well in Chennai also. It wasn't either art house cinema taniya vechada paakra, but it is a little slow and all that. So some specific comments about the films which you feel touched you a lot, made it interesting for you, created that mental conflict inside you.
I think after times you don't know whether to laugh or whether you should just remain silent. There's this awkwardness in the film and all the pauses and the silences and the dark humor parts where you don't know whether you feel guilty, you almost feel guilty for laughing, right? So those were the moments like you're not supposed to joke about those things. And that's how you usually perceive it. But here they kind of provoke every single thing and make fun of it. Not in a very slapstick kind of a way, but in a very genuine human kind of a way. So that, it's very awkward in a lot of places. But I think that's what the film's nature is. It is funny as much as it is disturbing. It is literally unwatchable at times, but it is also strangely arresting in some places because it feels real. So you want to keep watching it. So I think it balanced that perfectly. I think it was a very tough balance to master when you're doing dark humor and you're doing a very it's almost like a tragic comedy. Like it comes under the genre. So that is something very difficult to pull off. It's like making fun of someone's death. So that's something that you don't get away. Like you have to have a very specific tone, which is a hit or miss. So it's a tight rope, and I think he has done it really well.
So in the madri, so you have a rape victim's mom. நம்ம ஊர்ல ஒரு ரேப் அது ரிவெஞ்ச் தேட போனோம்னா நமக்கு ஒரு ஃபார்முலா இருக்கும். இல்ல அது டோட்டலி சேடன் ஆகி வாழ்க்கையில எல்லாம் நின்று போல எந்த கேரக்டருக்குமே அந்த ஒரு சோகமும் நடந்திருக்கு, வேற விஷயங்கள் அந்த மாதிரி எல்லாம் இந்த ஊர்ல மெயின் ஸ்ட்ரீம் சினிமால நம்ம ஆடியன்ஸ்க்கு சொல்ல வந்தோம்னா இஸ் இட் ஒர்க்கிங்?
See, there are thousands and thousands of cold cases in our country, cases of murder, rape, missing cases that are yet to be solved, right? Not a lot of people get closure through this dark times, and sometimes that's how life is. And another point that I observed in the film is that if you kind of give the audience closure and give the characters closure, you are kind of validating every single bad decision they made throughout the film. And that's not the point. The point is they become better people by the end of it. And they realize what they're doing is wrong. And they have been very impulsive. Both the cop and her, they made very impulsive decisions that cost someone in their life and all that. So by the end, when they have this conversation inside the car, when she tells him, "Are you sure about this?" He says, "I'm not sure." So for the first time, they're actually thinking about what they're doing. They're not being impulsive. They're thinking, should I do this? Should I go for it? I think that's what the film is about. That's what the film is about. That the character change, right? It's not about the closure. It's about the characters undergoing this change and learning to forgive themselves in the process. I think that's what the film is about.
That is such a beautiful thing. சில படங்களை சில விஷயங்களை திருப்பி அண்டர்லைன் பண்ணி கோடிட்டு பார்த்தா பல பேருக்கு அதை இன்னும் சீரியஸாக எடுத்துக்கிறோம். we are aware of it. பட் ஒரு 4 பேர் இட் இஸ் லைக் ஐஸ்வர்யா ராய் ஒரு ட்ரெஸ்ஸை போட்டால் it becomes more popular மாதிரி. Every time we have a special invitee and they note something like that and they underline it, it's beautiful for me because on the restaurantல கூட anger begets anger. நீ சொன்னியா அப்படின்னு வந்து கேர்ள் ஃப்ரெண்ட் கிட்ட கேட்டுட்டு the way she walks almost you think she's going to go break the bottle and அவ அதை வச்சுட்டு வரா. Cut to the same thing what he says. Do you think what you said about killing this guy? I'm not sure. I too am not sure. So that's what he said about it. And I think under my subtle things, why I'm even saying this is பல பேர் இப்போ வெளியில வந்த போய் அந்த 15 minutes of breakல லாஸ்ட்ல disappointment இப்படி முடிச்சிருக்க கூடாது. So நம்ம we are coming with a preconceived notion of this is revenge. இவன் நல்லவன் அவன் கெட்டவன். I think constantly stories literaturல probably கதைகளை வாசிக்கிறப்போ நம்ம அவ்வளோ எதிர்பார்க்கறது இல்லை. And then we have other people who saying கதை வந்து எழுதி புக்கு தான் பப்ளிஷ் பண்ணாங்க, சினிமா வந்து ஒரு ப்ரொடியூசர் காசு போட்டு பண்றப்போ இப்படி தான் பண்ணணும். But I think creative artists are constantly exploring those lines, and this is a film which has won several awards and has done commercially well. And we have a filmmaker, young filmmaker here who's Nayantara oda padam Taapsee pannoda padamla பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கிறவரும், how he is inspired by these things and constantly is continuing to explore in the kind of films he's saying. So இதை தவிர்த்து நீங்க படங்களை பத்தி ஜெனரலா film viewing பத்தி why exposure to different kind of cinema is important for you? Can you talk about that?
I'll tell you something about the ending. When I saw it for the first time, I was very disappointed too. I was very angry that they ended it that way. And it said a lot about me as a person. Maybe I was seeking closure for this kinds of film because you've invested almost 2 hours of your time and you want to know who kind of did that to the girl. You want justice to be served. That's how I felt too when I watched the film. But after rewatching it a couple of more times, I just realized, understood the actual essence of the film. And there's a lot of films which gives you narrative shocks like this. But once you watch it for the second time, the shock kind of wears off and you start focusing on other things, characters and a lot of other things which you would have missed the first time. And you actually learn to appreciate the film better, which I did. When I saw it for the first time, I was very upset with the ending, but eventually I realized that I think that was the whole point of the film. And the second and third time I watched the film, I was much more prepared for all the things because I know what's going to happen. But still, I ended up enjoying it because I was observing a lot of other things. And those are the times that I picked up all the interesting points that were discussed today.
Cinema touches us in so many ways, and it's not when we say cinema should only be entertaining or argument நம்ம வாட்ஸ்அப் குரூப்லலாம் அடிக்கடி நடக்கும். But cinema resonates in so many ways, and I know I'm just going off I'm going to take this liberty to just share this. He spoke about closure. தெரிஞ்சுக்கிறது யார் பண்ணினாங்க. All of us have that. 2 things happened recently in my life where people told, I understood that எல்லாத்துக்கும் the right and wrong கண்டுபிடிக்கிறது, closure கண்டுபிடிக்கிறது is not possible. In life there are so many, in this film, so many characters, the police officer's wife coming and so many things. அதுக்கு நியாயம் கிடையாது, அநியாயம் கிடையாது. It goes on like that. All of us know that when Neena Reddy lost her husband, so many people, why did it happen? எல்லாம் பேசுறப்போ almost all of you know her, அதனால I'll take the liberty to say. She says, I don't want to find out. It happened and there's a life ahead which is something I can make more meaningful with what that man taught me. that was such a beautiful moment for me. Not to சும்மா எதுக்கு கோல்டு வந்தது எங்க இருந்து கோல்டு பிடிச்சோன்னு கண்டுபிடிக்கிறத விட கோல்டுக்கு ஆவி பிடிக்கிறதையோ காகுல் பண்றதையோ பண்ணிட்டு போயிட்டு அடுத்த ஸ்டெப்க்கு போலாம். Same way, when we all, rape is something we talk about so much in our country. Many of us women go on to hold the candle at Marina Beach. We talk about it and then life goes on, which is fine. But has it left us with a certain awareness? In many cases, we can't find justice for this. That's something in my life I'm understanding closely because of certain interactions with people. And it's actually this film that way made a lot of sense to me. I'm sorry, I just took the liberty to share this with you all. Taapsee is such hot property on the Indian filmdom now. He's been working with her, shooting mudinjiruchu, Ashwin.
The film is releasing next month.
Yeah, releasing next month. And I'm amazed with the calm with which Ashwin goes about. I've been in touch with him at different times, the way he responds. And இது படம் முடியுது இது நடக்குது பயங்கர காமா எல்லா வேலையும் போயிட்டு இருக்கும் ரொம்ப சைலண்டா. That's something I admire.
It's interesting to look at this film in the perspective of the characters and what they go through. And I think there was a small line in the beginning of the film where this guy writes in the letter to this mother. He writes that some guy will brag in jail cell and all that, and he'll be an idiot about it, and we'll end up catching him. He makes it small line, right? So I think that does happen because a lot of killers feel this tendency to brag about what they do. They consider themselves as an artist, and they kind of like to put on a show, and they want people to know. They want people to talk about it. So obviously bragging is part of the whole killer psyche that is there. But the fact that this crimes are happening all around us, and I don't think is normalizing it at all. I think the way it looks normal was creepy to me. Like that's what disturbed me, right? See, when you say something with music, you say something in silence, there's a difference, right? The way he was talking about it was chilling to me. So I think it's really how you perceive it. For me, it did not feel normal. The way he was describing his crime, it felt very spine chilling for me. So I think it's just the tone. I think how you perceive it. It's not like different people perceive things differently. I think it's not a thing. But it's just the psychology of killers. I think was trying to explore that they usually do this.
On the same point, I think these things happen so much around us. We are all living with it. At this given point of time, if we say there will be about 50 to 100 plus rape cases where sometimes the boss knows and he can't work against it because of certain factors, or they don't know really, they find out. So all these combinations are possible. And சினிமாவில் தான் ஒரு கேஸ் எடுத்து நம்ம இதாக பண்ணோம். ஆக்சுவலி லைஃப்பில் நமக்கு தெரியாமல் ஒரு 50 கேஸாவது நம்மளை சுற்றி ஒரு கேஸ் டிஸ்கஸ் பண்ணப்பட்டதுன்னா ஒரு 50 கேஸ் நடக்கு. I think if we ask the lawyer or anybody, there's so much not being done. For example, அந்த officer could be somebody who's cutting it down, information கொடுக்காம அப்படி கூட இருக்கலாம். I like that loose-ended way of how he kept.
I think it's interesting what you mentioned because I don't know if you guys have seen this film called Zodiac, where this police officer goes after chasing this killer for almost 10-15 years, and he doesn't catch him. He doesn't have enough proof to convict him, and he doesn't get his closure, and he kind of becomes very, very frustrated with it, and he develops this kind of apathy, slight apathy towards him. Maybe this officer has seen a lot of other crimes like this, and he has seen people get away with it, and he has developed this kind of apathy, or he's a little less sensitive to it, than us actually. For us, it's the most important thing. But for me, I think he would have seen much worse things. So I think he has developed this kind of slight insensitivity towards the whole thing. You would have seen hundreds of cases like that. That's also something that can be noted.
Yeah, maybe that's the way he keeps his sanity, being little insensitive. Negative சொல்ல முடியாது. He has to live to do few other things.
You want the audience to follow the narrative. You also want the audience to put together things. So I always wrestle with the fact that should I dumb it down or should I just present it in a way that they can figure out. I still wrestle with it every time I write. So I think it's part of the process. For every filmmaker, it's dealing with exposition is a different thing. Some people just do it visually. Some people, do it verbally. Like it's different. Some people just put it out there and get it out of the way. So for me, it's a combination of all three, depending on what I'm writing. And I think it takes a lot of years to get better at it. I think it's one of the most important parts of screenwriting, and it has to be dealt really smartly. You can actually mask it, but you'll have to do it very cleverly. I think it takes a lot of writing a lot of experience.
பற்றி மகேந்திரன் போனார், அவர் இப்போ 80 வயசில் போனார். அவர் 2 ஜெனரேஷன் முன்னாடி உள்ளவர். அவர் எல்லாம் ஒரு சைக்காலஜியை வச்சு தான் எல்லா படமுமே எடுத்தார். ஏதாவது இப்போ ஒரு பர்சனோட சைக்காலஜியை பேஸ் பண்ணி படம் எடுத்தார். இப்போ வர படம், இப்போ ரீசெண்டாக வர படம் கூட டிப்பிக்கல் மசாலா ரொம்ப சகிக்காமல் வருது. யாரும் மகேந்திரன் மாரி ஒன்றுமே யாரும் வரவே மாட்டாங்களா? ரொம்ப சேடாக இருக்குது சார். ஒரு 7-8 வருஷமாக குப்பையாக இருக்குது தமிழ் ஃபிலிம்ஸ், குப்பையாக இருக்குது. காக்கா முட்டை வந்ததுக்கப்புறம் அது ஒரு படம் பிரில்லியன்ட் மூவி. அதுக்கப்புறம் ஒருத்தர் கூட எடுக்கலை. உங்கள் மாயா நான் பார்க்கல, எனக்கு அதனால் தெரியாது. ஏன் இவ்வளவு குப்பையை கீழே போய்கிட்டே இருக்கு? தயவு செஞ்சு ஒரு காரணத்தை சொல்லுங்க.
இட்ஸ் அவர் பர்சனல் டேக் அண்ட் இட்ஸ் ஆல்சோ இது மாதிரி பல பேருக்கு இருக்கும். And it's also how can he answer for this whole thing?
Director new entrant அவர் சொல்லலாம். அவர் வந்து
I completely empathize with you. I understand. I empathize with you. I felt the same way a lot of times. But I'll tell you, filmmaking has see, there are two things to this. One, the filmmaker has to make the effort. Second thing, when the filmmaker makes the effort, he needs to be backed by a producer who believes in his vision. Two things to it. And the third most important thing is, there has to be stars who are willing to be a part of such films. If they are not willing to be a part of such films, you will not get the money to make the film, and you will sit at home not knowing anything, just complaining about cinema is going to, it's turning very bad. So you'll have to have actors who are willing to give you the time and attention. You'll have to have producers who are willing to invest on you, and you have to have the vision. So I think it's a combination of all three that has to work out. That has worked out before. And now I think the commerce has compromised a lot of integrity in the industry. And I'm not saying good films are not being made; they are being made. I think of course, they need to be, much more in number. And I really hope that we are trying that. We are definitely struggling with it because you need to make your film. This is my bread and butter. I need to convince a producer to give me money to make a film. At the same time, you need to listen to them because they are very, very anxious about putting in the money, and they shouldn't think that this guy is out there to get awards and why should I pay for it, right? They shouldn't think you are being self-indulgent at all. So there has to be a very healthy collaboration that needs to happen between the production and the direction team, so that there is a unified vision that comes out in the end. And even if you make a good film, it's very important that the production understands it and facilitates you and empowers you to tell the story in a way that you want to do. So it's a combination of a lot of things, and it's not just the director who needs to be blamed. It's a lot of things, a lot of factors. But yes, the directors get a lot of credit. They get too much credit or they get too much flake. But I honestly feel it is a very collaborative medium, and we need a lot of people to empower storytellers to tell better stories.
Sir, I also wanted to, because those of them who've been constantly coming to the film club, we have touched on several of these topics. So sometimes I try not to go back to that same topic. Also, I think as a film club, the movement is also to make the audience look for more content and to talk about it in more positive ways. That's what we are attempting to do. Audience side lindu climate maatinona, reception will be better ngrappo there'll be more producers and people coming forward to it. Yeah, the next question.
What do you infer from the ending? I said she's going to kill him, and somebody else was saying no. So I mean, it depends on the perspective of the person, or you can infer something from the ending. What is your take on that?
I think she has always been very impulsive with what she had to do. Everything. She just goes and pays his guys and puts up the billboard. She sets the police station on fire. She does whatever she wants to without giving it a second's thought. And every time she did something like that, she regretted it. For the first time in her life, I think when she wants to go kill this guy, knowing that he's done that to some other girl, I think for the first time she's kind of second guessing her decision. For the first time she's taking a pause and reflecting, am I doing the right thing here? And she's not so sure about what she wants. And I think that's a great place to end the film, because I think that's her arc to being consumed by vengeance and fury. I think she has gone to a position where she's finally able to have a level head, and she's able to think straight just a little bit. I think the film should end on that note. What she does after that, I don't think it really matters, because the film was always about a mother trying to forgive herself after what she did to her daughter. Like invariably, she feels responsible for her death. I think the film really is about her coming to terms with the death. That's how I see it.
Yeah, the fight sequence, the argument sequence which he runs through, I hope you get raped too. And that the girl was smoking
that
pot.
he will kill you
Or
in
when
forever.
this guy is talking, when he's bragging also, the girl wanted more. So it is about the grey shades we all have in our characters and what bad activity leads to another bad activity. So I think it's all that. Even the husband goes through this conflict. So it's actually...
And I saw a lot of reaction here when Dixon's mother says something very, like very rude and very, vile. And there was a lot of reaction to it. I love that, that's how it is. Like they all, like it's very real, even they were calling themselves to name even within the family. Like, that you don't see in films often.
Yeah. The mother and son. Too.
Yeah. There was a lot of hostility in the family. At the same time, they're smiling immediately, they're laughing. I think it was very, very strange to look at it, and it was oddly very, very engaging in a way. But I'll tell you, surprisingly, I just noticed that shot for the first time, and she's driving with Dixon to, away from it. Before the last shot, we see the billboards. We don't see the billboards. We see the back of it, right? You don't see it anymore. It's like she's almost driving away from those billboards, and she's finally. Yeah, it doesn't matter to her anymore. I think it was a beautiful shot to see by the end of the film, because the film starts with her driving towards it, and it kind of ends with her driving away. So that was a very interesting analogy that let's see.
The closure bit of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I also, there was this other bit about the midget and the way he feels. She's so wrong there, the way she's so insensitive to his, அது ரொம்ப அழகா அவன் சொல்லிட்டு I need to have caught the ladder for you ஒரு மாதிரி. So we all end up hurting each other, I guess. Ashwin, can you comment about the way songs were used? Because the second time I saw it, I was relating it to it more. And the letter வாசிக்கிற இடம் இருக்குல்ல, Dixon is reading and the fire is coming up. Can you comment on sound and the way music?
I think there's an operatic quality to the entire treatment of the music. I felt like and the film kind of deserved it in a way, because there's a lot of drama. And also I think the music takes away the weight of the film. It's a very dark film to watch. It's literally unwatchable at times. I think the music kind of takes away the weight and makes it a little more consumable, I think. And also the music kind of stays away from the emotion of the film. And it's kind of like a bird's eye view, like it's like a spectator's view or a God's point of view of the entire narrative. So it did not pay attention to all the narrative, turns and twists and all that. It was existing on its own. I thought that was very interesting to see. I've seen a lot of people who smile and giggle at funerals. They'll be extremely depressed, but they process it in a way. They process grief in a very different way than most of us. And that would be for me, it was emotional to see that. Like, people, when they are consumed by grief, they kind of react in a different way. And there's a very tender moment in the film where they actually do it. They didn't have to do it, but they did it, which makes it even more real. And the performance was very striking. And without a performance like that, the scene wouldn't work. So she was spot on there.
Thanks. So tell us about, because the first one, Maya, in 2 other languages, but now we're very interested in knowing, because you've been working on this film and you have a explosive actress with you who's been selecting scripts which are very different. ஆடுகளத்துல வந்ததுலேருந்து I remember talking to her and what she said about working in Tamil, and so you're getting her back here. She's been exploring some interesting scripts. This creates one anticipation about your script also. What is it you'd like to tell us, because you're releasing in a month?
So my second film, Iravaakalam, took a lot of time to make, and it was a very challenging part of my life. And after a point, there were a lot of reasons the film was getting delayed, and I was pretty depressed. And I had to make a choice at some point: should I move on to the next one, or should I stick with this? And I made the choice: let me go out and make a small film, and hopefully I'll be able to complete the film in 4, 5 months, 6 months, and I'll be able to. I needed to convince myself that I can continue to make films. I really wanted to be. I really want to tell another story. I just wanted to keep doing it. I didn't want to remain stagnant in one place for a long time. So that's how it started. That's how the film started, and there was a lot of restrictions I gave myself, because I wanted the film to feel small. Like feel small in the sense I wanted it to be done very quickly. So I wanted it to happen in a house, and it should have minimum number of characters and all those things. But actually, when I started writing it, I realized that I cannot let these restrictions dictate how I write it. So I kind of wrote it in a way that I would normally write a film. And I've always been interested in working with a production company called Why Not Studios because they've always done a lot of interesting, very different films like Vikrameda, Iriju Sutru, and a lot of other films. They've been doing films for a long time. So I wanted to work with them. So I just approached them, and they just, they liked the idea, and they said, okay, let's just do it. And my first option was Taapsee because I think I was very impressed by Pink, and I spoke to her after the film, and I told her this is a lovely film, and I really didn't know that she could perform like that. The film really surprised me. So I really wanted to work with her, and this film kind of fell into place, and this was Why Not's first association with Reliance Entertainment. So we thought naturally we can pick an actor who has his pan-India appeal, and hopefully make a film that can be seen by anybody in the country and still resonate with it. So that was the starting point of the film, and we ended up making it, and now we're kind of dubbing. We made the film in Tamil and Telugu, and Reliance kind of saw the potential in the film. They said we'll dub it in Hindi as well and release it. So.
Okay. We're really looking forward to it. Waiting to hear about that. Thank you so much. So, can we have Krishnan? Can you please hand over a small memento from Cinema Rendezvous to Ashwin, please? And can the rest of you please come here for a group photo? We want everyone to join us. Yes.